My guest today is actress Katherine Sutherland, and she is best known for her iconic role as Katherine Cat Hillard, the Pink Ranger, in the legendary Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series. Now, after her time on Power Rangers, Katherine went on to star in major films such as The Cell, appeared in numerous commercials, and even voiced characters in children's toys and games. Now, in recent years, she's continued to inspire through her ventures in writing, co-hosting popular podcasts, and engaging deeply with her fan base through the Power Rangers Playback YouTube channel and podcast Super Chat with Cat and Nakia. So let's welcome actress Katherine Sutherland to the show. Welcome, Katherine.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, I tell you what, I searched back into a bit of your history. So how in the world did you get into acting?
Yes, well, it started when I was very young. I was a dancer, and my mom said I was always putting on concerts and performing for the family. And I was just always interested in creative arts. And, so during school and everything, I was doing a lot of plays and all of that. And then when I was 14, I begged my parents to audition for this performing arts school in Sydney called McDonald College. And I was accepted, and that was just the greatest time of my life. I got to do, school and arts all in one place, kind of like a Juilliard kind of setting, I guess.
Well,
Um, and so that kind of introduced me to musical theater, and I started doing plays and musical theater and recitals professionally from about the age of 16. And then modeling, and my modeling agent ended up they had an acting division and wanted to represent me as an actor because they knew I was an actor, and it just all kind of rolled on from there. So I started in theater and then kind of moved my way over to television and film.
well, when did you go from Australia to the United States?
I was from Power Rangers. I got this audition for this kids show that filmed in America, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, my dreams are about to come true!" And I had no idea what Power Rangers was. It was just I just knew I was going to be a series regular on a children's show, and so I went through the audition process. I believe there was three auditions. The final one was with the producer, and then about three weeks later, they called me and offered me the role, and it was all systems go, moving my whole life from Sydney to Los Angeles. It was crazy. Yeah.
So how did your life change when you were on Power Rangers?
Oh, it was crazy because the show, I didn't realize how successful the show was when I was cast. It had only just started airing in Australia. So when I joined the cast, they had just filmed, they were just about to do the premiere for the first movie. So I had my first exposure to how popular the show was at the premiere of the movie. And they were like rock stars. Everybody was screaming, and they'd just done a hand and foot ceremony in Hollywood. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I walking into here? This is crazy. I thought it was just a kids' show. This is like a phenomenon. And then the show, we were non union. So we filmed a lot, like 6 days a week, sometimes 15-hour days. I was just in the grind of working. And you don't think about you being seen on television. So the first time I got recognized, I was just kind of taken back of like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's right. This is actually being seen by people. So it really turned my life completely upside down. Just also adapting to a new culture, going from Australian culture to American, driving on the different side of the road, different terms for things. I went to the grocery store and I was so overwhelmed by how many cereals you guys had to choose from. I'm like, ah. And just like, I remember going to the store and asking for rock melon, and people were like, what is rock melon? And I said, it's a fruit. It looks like a rock and it's orange inside. And they're like, cantaloupe? And I said, yeah, we rock melon. It makes sense.
Oh
So
my God. I never even realized that there would be different terms for
yeah.
fruit or even a vegetable from one country to the next. That is really funny.
It is, and we in Australia, my mum used to always make pumpkin with our meals, like it was one of our vegetables. And so I moved to America in June, and I was asking for pumpkin, and everyone thought I was bizarre. But we call what you would call butternut squash, we call pumpkin. So we eat that all the time in Australia. It's not just a seasonal thing. So just there was so many little things like that that just I had to adapt to, you know.
Oh, that is so funny. Now I know with the Power Rangers, wasn't there also a toy line?
Oh yeah, the toys is really. We always say we're a commercial for the toys, really, because the toys are like, when the show was first on, there was like parents scrambling to get toys for their kids and lines out the door, and it was crazy. So the toys are very much a part of the series for sure.
Well, was there a particular favorite Power Ranger amongst all the kids?
Yeah, I think Tommy was definitely the most popular. He was the Green Ranger, and then he became the White Ranger, and became the Red Ranger. Like he moved through different colors, but he was like the bad boy that became the leader of the Power Rangers. So I would say he was really. We lost him actually 2 years ago, but he was really like the Power Ranger. Like everybody just adored him. Yeah, I would say
Well,
definitely.
you must have been the big favorite with all the girls though, right?
The pink range is popular. I think probably mostly because it's pink. Like little girls love pink. But the kind of vibe with the two girls, the yellow ranger was the other girl on the show, and she was always kind of like the sassy, fun, like spirited kind of character. And then the pink ranger would tend to be more like Kimberly, the girl before me, was more like the fun cheerleader kind of person, Valley Girl personality. So it was interesting. They had like the girly girl and then the sassy girl. That was kind of how they paired us up.
Well, I was surprised because I went on IMDb and I was shocked to see how many different Power Rangers series
Yeah.
there were. And of course, there was the movie. So I literally made a list because I was so surprised because you had Power Rangers Zero, you had Power
Zio.
Rangers Turbo, which what was Zeo?
Zio, yeah.
Okay. Well, and then there was Turbo, then there was Power Rangers Wild Force, Power
Hmm.
Rangers All, Power Rangers Shattered Past, which I thought was kind of weird title. And then there was two movies. Now, did you star in all of those?
So I came on in '95. I did Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and then Power Rangers Zeo, Power Rangers Turbo, and then I did a Power Rangers Turbo movie, and then I did a couple of anniversary episodes. So the 25th anniversary, which was part of the Ninja Steel series, and then I just did the 30th anniversary, which was Once and Always, which is on Netflix. That was a standalone movie. So
Wow. Was it
to bring
weird for you? Well, was it
it
weird for you to go back into the whole Power Ranger mode, even if it was 10 or 25 years later?
No, it kind of was like putting on a comfortable pair of shoes. It all felt very familiar, but it was very nostalgic to just see the sets again. And actually, some of the people I worked with when I was on the show are still part of the series. So Yuji, who was one of our stunt doubles, he was now the stunt director, and Katsu. So all these stunt guys that I'd worked with and had been my stunt doubles, or it was so bizarre to see them 30 years later and they can still do all the crazy stuff they did back then. And then we had a couple of producers. Chiplin, who was one of the producers when I was on the show, he was still a part of the series when I did the 25th anniversary special. So yeah, it's a real family. So we always joke at how whenever a new version of the show comes out, because it's now been on for 30 years, it's like they become part of this fraternity sorority experience, and we all just kind of we just have such a bond because there's so few of us in the world, and we're just all very connected like a big family. It's really sweet.
Well, what's it
So
like interacting with fans at all of the Comic Con type events?
that's my favorite part of this. Like when I was on the show back then, I used to love when we'd get to visit kids in hospital, or when we'd have kids visit the set. That was always so just endearing to me, that I got to be a role model to somebody and be a positive influence in their life. And so, I didn't realize when I came back to these Comic Cons, I had no idea what a Comic Con was or anything like that. And in 2009, I was approached to do a Comic Con, and I was like, what's a Comic Con? I had to go through the whole thing with this person. And when I arrived and saw like there was thousands of people there to see us, I just was so touched to think after all this time, people still even knew who I was or cared who I was. And just we hear the most beautiful stories from people that were bullied, and our show gave them a reason to go on, or people that had to have big surgeries or going through cancer or didn't have any friends, and our show gave them something that made them want to go on. Just it's story after story. So the fans to me are my favorite part of being a part of the franchise. They're just amazing and very loyal.
It's
So
so funny. I was talking with actress Jane Kasmarek from Malcolm in the Middle,
mm-hmm.
and she told me, she was at first like you. What is Comic Con?
Yeah,
And so she got invited to a Comic Con. I think it was. I think she told me it was in Poland. And so she arrives and she has no clue what these things are. And they
yeah,
go, "Well, you need security." She goes, "Why?" Because she's so down to earth. She
yes,
doesn't play the celebrity game whatsoever. And
yeah,
then they go, "Well, you need security." She goes, "Why?" You don't know? She goes, "No, what?" So she arrives with security, and the line of people just to meet her and get a picture with her
yeah,
was insane and went around the block. She's like, "Oh my gosh, they
yeah,
watch this show over here." And
yeah,
so I just thought that was really weird. And to hear you say that, in the
yeah.
very beginning, but everybody I talked to literally loves interacting with the fans at these things
Oh,
because you've created memories for their lives they'll always remember.
yeah, and I mean, I literally every signing I do, I'm in tears by somebody. Somebody has an amazing story, or they're in tears because you've done. I don't know. It's just I feel so grateful, and it really is such a blessing to be able to just touch someone's life and hear their story. And yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Well, I know that you have Power Rangers Playback, the YouTube channel, and then there's the Super Chat with Cat and Nakia. What are those about?
Yeah, so back in 2020, Nakia and I were at a convention in Scotland, and we were standing next to these two very famous voiceover actors called Nolan North and Troy Baker. So they do a lot of voices for Far Cry and all kinds of games. Like they're very popular in that world. And they had a really long line, and a lot of their fans were wearing shirts that said Retro Replay on it. And we were like, "Oh God, so what's Retro Replay?" And they said, "Well, we started this YouTube channel where we play our own games that we voiced and we talk about it." And fans really love it. And we were like, "Oh my gosh, we should do something like that for our fans." They're always asking, like, in episode 52, when you did blah blah blah, what did that feel like? Or they always have these funny questions. They want to know what was going on behind the scenes. And we thought that would be such a fun thing for them, like to give back to them. So we started to do, our initial plan was to watch our episodes and talk about it. Well, we got all these copyright claims immediately from Hasbro and Toy and Saban. Everybody was copywriting us, and we were like, "Oh gosh, we're going to have to reframe this." And then COVID happened, and we had a whole lot of time to be creative and come up with ideas. So Nakia and I just kind of regrouped and thought, okay, how can we make this really fun and entertaining for our fans without dealing with this copyright stuff? So we started doing game shows, and we did interviews, and we do travel episodes, and we have all kinds of different segments, all tied into our fan base. And we have memberships, so our fans that are our members, they really are very interactive with what they want to see and what they want us to put up on the channel. So it started off as just like a fun thing we wanted to give back, and now it's become like people love it, and we've just it's kind of taken off. So now we just have kind of invested more in it. We do all kinds of silly skits, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
That's funny. Now, have you ever seen fans maybe online that may have massive Power Ranger collections?
Yes, and we probably should just start integrating that into as another segment, because we do an amateur toy review as one of our segments, because we're very amateur. We don't know anything. So we do these amateur toy reviews, and it would be fun to add that as a segment where we have a fan come on and show us their collections, because some of these people have rooms full. It's like museums. It's amazing. Yeah.
Does that really surprise you how how fans just, I mean, it's so, it's such a big part of their life and they don't let it go. It's just like they want to add to it.
Yes, and you should see some of the. I mean, it's not just our fan base, the Star Wars fan base, Star Trek, all of them. The things that people create are so incredible, like beautiful, like sculptures and like it's amazing. And I want all of it. I'm like I have to buy it, unfortunately, but yeah, it's really cool to see
Well,
some of
what's
these.
the craziest Power Rangers collectible you ever saw?
Oh gosh. Well, a lot of fans do like make their own things, which I really love. Like they'll take a pop and create a pop, their own pops, like out of with 3D printing and things like that. So I love seeing them be creative and come up with their own things that way. Or they'll make their own action figures. Some of the beautiful ones are like the 07 action figures. I love those. And there's a creator in Brazil that made like beautiful actual bronze statues that are worth a lot of money, and they're just beautifully made. There's only a few of them. So yeah, there's a lot out there. I love them all.
Do you like being known as a Power Ranger? Is it a wonderful legacy to have?
It is now. It's funny because when I finished on the show and I was still pursuing acting, I kind of ran into some roadblocks with casting directors kind of typecasting me and not thinking that I was an actor because they thought I was in a suit all the time. And I was like, no, you see my face, like I did theater, I know how to act. you know. So I remember being a bit like, maybe I shouldn't tell people I was on the show, at first. And then it's kind of come full circle now because I am very extremely proud to have been a part of the show, and I am happy to be little girl's superhero, someone that they look up to. I take that responsibility very seriously, and what a gift to be a part of something that's had such longevity. Not many people could say that, so I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, I can see where certain programs can be where you're typecast, but like you said, they saw your face,
Yeah,
and it's just weird how some of these casting directors think and
yeah.
not realizing that some of these people have great theater backgrounds, they know how to act, but then you get a part and start in the movie The Cell with Jennifer
Yes.
Lopez and Vince Vaughn. How would you describe that experience?
That was like such a different experience than being on Power Rangers because it was union, and I'd done commercials and things, voiceover work that was union. But this was like my first really big movie, union movie, and they were just. It was such stark contrast to Power Rangers because we were non-union, so it was very like thrown together, and I got hurt a few times, and it was just like I got robbed at gunpoint and still had to go to work. Like it was just very different. So when I did the cell, one of the scenes when they discover my body, I had to be. It took them about 6 to 8 hours to do my makeup because they like made me look like a little bit rotting and like just it. I had to be spray painted because the killer bleaches my body, and just the detail of the makeup was incredible. And I had to be they had to put ants on my face. So in the scene, they pull the plastic down, and you see all these ants kind of walking over my body. And I had to lay there with contacts in and watch ants going over my face. And I had to kind of put myself in a meditative state to do that scene. But afterwards, they were so grateful, and they sent me flowers, and they just spoiled me the whole time I was on that movie. I just felt like they treated me like a princess. And it was so different from Power Rangers, where they're like, just suck it up and you sprained your ankle, just get up, go and do it. So there was that, and you get paid differently, and they have to give you turnaround time. So if you go overtime, they have to give you 12 hours before you come back to set to work the next day. Whereas with Power Rangers, I remember finishing filming at like 2 in the morning, and we had to come be back on set at 6 in the morning. And they didn't want to pay for a hotel room, so I had to pay for my own hotel room. So those kind of things, just very different experience when you're on a high budget SAG movie. So there was that, but also just being able to work. I worked a lot with Vincent D'Onofrio on that movie set, and just seeing him, he's such a brilliant actor, and seeing his process, and working with my makeup artist was Michelle Burke, who worked on, she was John Travolta's makeup artist. She worked on Dracula and all kinds of movies. And we had the best of the best on that movie set. And our director, Tarsem, was just such an incredible talent. So I felt like I'd kind of hit the jackpot being able to work with all those people.
Well, then so when you got the role for the cell, did that change the perspective within the auditions?
Yes, I got a lot of opportunities after that. But to be really transparent with you, I was a horrible auditioner. The cell was like a rare thing. Like I did really well on that one, but I just at that time in my life, I think I was just very impressionable, and I didn't feel comfortable in who I was and bringing who I was to the set. And so I think I was very listening a lot to my managers and my agents about how I should be. And I wish if I could go back and change that, I would have just been myself, and I think I would have been fine. But I just didn't like the way it was making me feel about myself. So not long after the cell, I actually stepped away from the industry for many years. And then I raised my children, and I just didn't want to be feeling like I wasn't enough anymore. And yeah, so it was a challenging, really challenging, because I loved to act. I loved being on set. I loved the whole industry, but I didn't like that it was becoming more about who you know and what you look like, and not really about the art. So
Yeah, I think it's harder for women
yeah,
in film
definitely.
because there are those that cast based on look and no
Hmm.
talent. And
Yeah.
then where they should be focused on talent alone, and of course I know that certain characters have to have a particular look that they want them to have. I get all of that, but I
Hmm.
still think the industry overall is so behind when it
Yeah.
comes to the treatment for actresses, um,
Yeah.
having more opportunities for female directors, which I
Mhm.
love. I have talked to so
Me
many
too.
female directors, and they're still, I'm not going to say underappreciated, but I think the opportunities need to be enlarged. Because, I mean,
Absolutely.
last year at the Oscars, there was only one female director in the Best Director category.
Right. Right.
And I thought that, I was like, come on, because I've talked to I've interviewed so many female directors,
So
and
many
they
talented
are
female
amazing.
directors.
They have a
Yeah.
different eye.
Yeah, it's a different perspective. Well, I know that, Reese Witherspoon's company is really about empowering women's stories and female directors, and Nicole Kidman too. They really are trying to push that. And I think that's wonderful, because women have a lot to say too.
Well,
So, yeah.
some of the things that I've seen, and most of the ones I talked to, some of them, let's say we'll use a short film as an example. Some female filmmakers will actually have an all-female crew, which I think is really cool because it opens up the doors for others. If they're a cinematographer, maybe they're handling sound or lighting, not just makeup
Wow.
and wardrobe, but really getting in on the technical side of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Because in filmmaking, I look at it that everybody's an equal.
Yeah, it is. It's one of the professions where I believe that that is very much the case. I think there's certain things that women might be better at and men might be better at. I'm not going to deny that. But in the film industry, I think that there is definitely a space for more women. And women are multitaskers. Women can do a lot of different things at once, and I think that's an asset in this industry.
Yeah, I
So.
agree. I agree. Now, for you though, with auditions, which one do you like best, in person or self tape?
I haven't done self-tape. That wasn't really a thing when I was still auditioning. We were still in person. So I think I'd probably like self-tape, but I am a very much a people person. I like to be with people. So I don't know. I know I've helped a lot of my friends with self-tapes, and they like that they can get the best take and they don't feel the pressure of it being the one. You have to get the one, in person. So yeah, I kind of like that option. But do they even watch them? That's what I wonder. Like, are
Oh
they really?
yeah. Oh
They do?
yeah.
Yeah.
They do. And I mean, I was talking, gosh, I'm trying to figure it was recently. It was on I'm trying to remember if it was a short film or a feature. I think it was a short film. The director, who was female, told me that they were trying to cast this they needed a young boy. They must have went through 100 self
Wow.
tapes to find the right one. And
Wow.
sometimes they already know, but then they go and they keep watching just in case to convince themselves, do we have the right one or is there somebody that's better? And
Yeah.
it just gets crazy. But then I have actors that will tell me they would rather do an in-person audition before ever doing a self-tape.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, COVID, that's one blessing, probably the only blessing that came from
Yeah.
COVID, is that we realize there's a lot of things we can do virtually and be connected that way. So yeah, I don't know. I'm curious how I would feel about that. Like
Uh,
commercials is different. Like commercials, like you're just going in and selling a product. But with acting, I feel like being in person, I would it being virtual and being in person. I don't know. We'll have to
yeah,
see.
yeah, it comes, it's funny because it comes down to, you know, the gray background. You
Mm-hmm.
may have to have someone who's off camera or off the behind your smartphone doing the other lines. So that way
Yes.
you have someone to feed off of. And
Yes.
it's just funny how the whole process is. Some people love it, some people hate it. And
Yes.
but it also goes back to how long they've been in the industry.
Mm,
A lot of them they didn't really get into the industry until the pandemic hit. So they're only used to self tapes.
right. Yeah. The younger actors. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other ones they've been doing in audition, and then with some, they started out so young that
Yeah.
rejection means nothing to them. And then you
Yeah.
get those that are 18, 20 years old and they get rejected. They think it's the end of the world.
Yes. Yes. That's the hardest part. Like what I'm saying with the auditions, it's like you go in there and pour your heart out, and then you don't. Sometimes they wouldn't even look at you. They've already cast it. They're just kind of going through the motions because they have to, because SAG tells them they have to. And it would be so soul destroying. And you walk in a room and there's 20 other girls that are all beautiful, blonde, young girls, and I was like, this sucks.
It felt like a cattle call, didn't it?
Yes, yes, sometimes it did. And I had a manager who was really encouraging me to not use my accent. And I said, but I should go in as myself and then show them I can do my accent, just like Nicole Kidman and all these other Naomi Watts. There's a million of us that we're trained in Australia to learn how to do American accent. And she's like, no, I think it'll put them off. And I was like, why did I allow myself to do that? I should have gone in as myself, and I probably would have gone better because I would have been more comfortable, you
I
know?
agree with you. I have a friend of mine who is a British actress, and she teaches people how to do an American dialect. And
Mm-hmm.
so she told me, she goes, I stopped going into an audition for an American part. I would go in, use my normal British accent, and if they want to know if I can do an American accent, then I will do it then. But I go
Yeah.
in as myself to do the part.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's better. You're comfortable in your skin, and then it shows that you have the skill to be able to do other dialects. That's what acting is. I was like, that was just bad advice, but anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, they're managers and agents when they try to mold a client,
Mm-hmm.
the client needs to really think about, okay, I can take some of their advice,
Mm-hmm.
but I still want to but you have to be true to yourself, because by being true to yourself, that's where you take control of the audition. It's like what Michael Keaton said. After he figured out the whole in-person audition thing, he goes, I treat it like I'm going to work. This is my job. I want to go in, do my job, and I'm leaving, and I'm believing that I got it.
Right.
And
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's a mindset thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's a mindset for sure. And I think that's something I always say to young actors when they ask me, about for advice. I'm like, just be authentic. Do not be molded to what someone thinks you're supposed to be, because there's only one you, and what you bring is special. And don't allow people to change you. I think that in my early years of my life, I was very susceptible to that, and I think it's to your detriment, really. So yeah,
I
that's always best to be you.
yeah, best to be you. Now, tell me about this brand new movie, Class Dismissed.
Oh, that was Nakia. Speaking of female directors, Nakia wrote. She's my best friend and my podcast partner. She wrote this story kind of based on her own life. When she left Power Rangers, she was an actress that was, in and out of jobs, and she's like, I need to make money to pay my bills. So she became a substitute teacher in the kind of like Compton, that kind of area, lower income areas. And she said she had so many crazy stories. So she started writing them down. And like, you wouldn't even believe some of the things she would tell us about some of her crazy experiences. And so she's like, this is really funny. I could make a really good show out of this. So she did a little YouTube series called Class Dismissed. And I think there was like maybe 8 to 10 episodes. And she got an opportunity to put it together and make it like a little film. So it was on Hulu. And I just did a couple of episodes. I think I did 1 or 2 episodes of it, but it was really cool. And then she's now made that into a movie called Back to Bridgewood, which is in the process of getting distribution now. And it's like a faith-based comedy. So she's won several awards. I'm very proud of her. So we've been excited to see that get out to the masses, and everyone can see that soon, hopefully.
I love that. Now, for you, how has your faith shaped your journey in the entertainment industry?
Yeah, my faith is my anchor for sure. I do not know how people get through life without God. I'm a hot mess. He keeps me on track. um, I think that again, in my early years, I've been a Christian for since I was a teenager, but I don't think I could say that I really knew who Jesus and God was. I think I was on the path, but just living more in the world than I was for God. And I think as I've gotten older, having children really made my faith grow even more. Just the miracle of being a parent, and I think just having those moments in your life where things are not going well, and really having to lean into Him and just seeing Him just provide and surround me with His comfort and love time and time again has been such an anchor for me. So it really shapes everything I do in my life. Everything I do is focused on Him. So I just want to be a vessel. I just want to be a light for God. So,
I love
however,
that. Now, well, let me ask you, Katherine, because I understand more and more celebrities are coming out, no
mm,
longer hiding their beliefs in
yeah.
Hollywood. Are we seeing a shift happening in Hollywood right now?
I think there's a big shift. I know a lot of my friends here in Nashville left behind the old. They are done with that. They're done with the craziness that industry is kind of really promoting violence and sex and just the values of the industry have changed so much. And we just want to do good work. We want to do work that is uplifting and inspiring to people. And just get back to like good movies. I think Wicked was like the first time that I was like, oh my gosh, we have a good movie again. I just feel like everything I'm watching is just trash. I'm sorry if that's offensive to people, but it's really hard to find something that hasn't been done before, or that it's just like you're just waiting for the moment where someone's going to get slashed and there'll be blood everywhere, or there's going to be a gratuitous sex scene, or it's the stories have just gotten shallow to me. And so I think people are wanting more. I mean, I think people, like everyone I talk to, they want that, like good quality television they can watch with their children, you know. So yeah, I think there is a big shift happening, and I love seeing people being open about their faith. I know Chris Pratt is has, and Mark Wahlberg, and a lot of them have come out and really spoken up about that. So that excites me. I think Hollywood does need a big shift, big change.
Yeah, needs a big shift, and I agree. A lot of the writing is so
Mm.
poor,
Yes.
and even the quality of the filmmaking has suffered greatly. Well, of course, now budgets are so big, people
Yes.
don't understand that. Now that when you see a budget, let's say $100 million, and the
It's
movie
crazy.
comes out, and you're like, "What did you spend your money on?"
Yes, exactly. Like if you look at it like Titanic, I remember when Titanic came out and we were like, oh my gosh, they spent so much money. But you could see like that was an amazing production. Same with Avatar. Like I'm like, okay, I can see that he's invest where this money has been invested. But some of these films are just trash and they're spending all the money on the actor. And then the writing has suffered or the direction is bad or whatever. I don't know. I would love to see them get back. There was a time where in the 90s where we had so many amazing independent films that were coming out, and like I want to get back to that. Get back to
Well,
giving people a chance to like tell a story that's got meaning to it, you know?
well, it's funny that you say that because I got into the discussion with a film director, and we laughed because of the fact that they try to bring out and say that there's a faith-based film genre, and in reality there's not.
Mhm.
Because we laughed because I said, well, one of the greatest films there ever was Chariots of Fire,
Oh, that's a good one.
and it won an Oscar. And I said, if that film came out today, they would have slapped it in the faith-based film genre. It would have
Yeah,
never seen the light of day and would have never been nominated for an Oscar.
that's so true. It's so true. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think we've just I don't know, as a society, I think maybe we've just lost touch with like we want the quick fix. We want the like the big and wham bam, thank you ma'am kind of experience. And we've lost touch of like the slow, beautiful, patient films. Like I was thinking, one of my favorite films is English Patient, and it was such a beautiful, like patient film. It was just so beautifully executed, and I don't know if people would like that now. Like what you're saying, it's like we want everything to be quick and get on with it, and the big
Well,
spectacle and
you say something that's interesting because the audience wants it, but Hollywood won't deliver it. So
right.
back in 2023, and another female film director, I just interviewed probably 2 months ago. She did a Spanish film. She's an American film director, but she did a Spanish feature film called Speak Sunlight. And I watched the whole film. It was so endearing, so heartwarming.
Mhm.
Um, but it was based on people.
Mm.
It's not an action film. It's not a superhero film. It's a real story, a period piece of the mid 1960s. It was a
Mm.
beautiful film. And I told her, I said, why can't we have more movies like this? Because
Yeah.
the audience wants them, but
There's no
Hollywood
money
won't
in it,
deliver
probably.
them.
There's no money in it, maybe. I know my friend, did you see Sound of Hope by any chance? The
Yes, I
Angel
did.
Story?
I actually talked to Rebecca
So
Wow.
she's a friend of mine. Yes.
I'm a very good friend of Rebecca's.
Oh, she's an amazing person. I met her through my friend Dawn here, and just hearing the story of how long it took them to get that made, and it's such a beautiful film. Like the story is incredible, the acting is incredible, and it's such an important story. And it took them like 10 years to get that film made.
Well,
And
did Rebecca tell you about the short film? It was, I think it's what, the Butterfly
yes,
Circus?
yeah,
Okay.
that have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen the short yet, but I have to go back through my email. I think she sent me the link. But the thing is this, that's a perfect example. She told me that that film online alone has been seen over 75 million times,
Hmm.
and they're trying to get a feature made. I'm
Yes,
like, if a studio sees that the short film was seen 75 million times, I think it's a pretty good indication to
yes.
write the check for the feature.
Yes, exactly. If when you see it, it is so incredible. I said to her, "Oh my gosh, I want to see more of this." It's like the way that Josh filmed it. It's like magical. Like I was sitting on the edge of my seat. I mean, what they did with Sound of Hope with a very small budget was pretty amazing. So I want more of those filmmakers out there, and they are such good people, and they love what they do. So yes, more of that, please.
Yeah, yeah, because I've seen Sound of Hope. I saw the, I'm blessed to the fact that I get all the screeners before any of the films are ever released to the theaters or online. And there's a new one coming up here in the next week or so called Brave the Dark. And it's another film that
Oh,
people will love because it's based on a true story.
mm,
It's adversity to victory. And you're like, yeah, why can't we have more films like
like,
this one? And
mhm.
they're out there. It's just that we just need the public to demand more of these films, and not just for streaming, but they need to be theatrical releases as
I
well.
know. I miss that. I feel like everybody's gotten lost the bug for going to the theater. It's everybody's just again, it's the quick fix. I can just buy this at home and stay in my pajamas and eat popcorn and watch a movie. But that experience of the cinema is my husband's one of those people, by the way. He'd much rather be in his pajamas on the couch.
Yeah, I
um,
no, I get it. I get it.
yeah.
And it was funny because I'm not going to mention his name, but a very famous film director. Um, he didn't want to send me the screener to his film. He said, I would rather have it set up so you can sit in the theater to watch it and experience like it needs to be experienced. And I said, that
Mhm.
guy knows exactly what he's talking about.
Yes, yes. Well, that was like I went and I've seen Wicked 3 times, by the way, but I had to see it in the movie theater twice to like really allow it to wash over me, and then I watched it with my best friend at her house, and I it was not the same on the small screen. I mean, it's still incredible, but I was literally like sobbing through that whole movie. So,
I've been wanting to see Wicked because I fell in love with Wonka with
oh,
Timothy
I haven't
Chalamet.
seen that.
I love the way that it was done. And I'm
Yeah,
like, come on, Hollywood.
yeah.
It's a hit movie. You know what the audience wants, but you're not giving what we want and that what we want to see. You're basically forcing and you're shoving content that we don't really want to see.
Yeah, like no, I won't say that.
No,
I was
no.
gonna
It's like, well, I'll give you it's like going on streaming and you notice that there could be 10 to 20 films and they all have the same storyline.
Yes. Yes. Or they'll make a movie out of anything. Like, it's like they'll pick a game and you're like, what is this story? Like, how can this be a movie? But they'll figure it out because they know someone will see the title and be like, "Oh, I have to see that because it's my favorite game or my favorite toy or whatever." You know?
The spirit of manipulation is what I call that. And
Yes.
but for you, what's next for you in 2025?
Well, I always like to set an intention word for the year. So my word for 2025 is courageous. And I really want to get out of my like put fear aside and like step in and try new things that I haven't done before. So one of my things is I want to finish. I'm writing a book about my mother's life, and I want to finish that. I want to get some of my children's books that I've written published. Um, I have one published, but I would like to kind of step out and do more of that. And then I have a couple of movie ideas that we've been talking about. Nakia and I have been talking about trying to get made, but we haven't taken that step. So there's just a few things that I'm stepping into. I'm also helping to produce a children's show that is, this girl has been working on this for 10 years, and she's so amazing and talented, and it's such a well flushed out little series. It's kind of a cross between Magic School Bus and Hannah Montana. It's so adorable and so uplifting, and kids are going to go crazy over it. So I'm helping develop that and get that sold. We're hoping to get that sold this year. So lots of things in the pipeline. I just really want to be authentic in my walk and go where God's leading me. So
I love it. And you're going to add a self-tape to that?
yeah, I'm exploring stepping my toe back into the acting world, actually. So I'll stay tuned. Keep you posted on that.
Well, I think you are perfect for either GAC, Lifetime,
Yeah,
Hallmark. It's a huge film market for all three of those networks. That's probably a perfect place there as well. And Katherine, I want to thank you so much for coming on to the show today and just kind of sharing us a bit about being the Pink Power Ranger and some of your film past and what's coming up in the future. So I can't wait to see what happens.
thank you so much. It was so lovely talking to you.
Well, you're very, very welcome. And ladies and gentlemen, hey, stick around. We'll be right back with more.